presentation is seamless. And today's session is jointly hosted by India Tourism Mumbai and the Press Information Bureau Maharashtra. We are privileged to have PIB co-hosting this special session. I take this opportunity to welcome Shri Manish Desai, Director General, Western Zone Press Information Bureau, who has joined us and has kindly consented to give his introductory remarks to this webinar today. And let me introduce Sri Manish Desai. He is a 1990 batch officer of the Indian Information Service, currently working as Director General West Zone in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and he heads the Press Information Bureau's Mumbai office. During 30 years of his service, he has held various assignments in the areas of public communication, broadcasting, and films. Prior to his current assignment in Mumbai, he was the Registrar of Newspapers of India in New Delhi. Before I invite Shri Manish Desai, DG PIB, to give his introductory remarks, let me briefly introduce you to the EBSP program. The idea of a structured cultural connect, sustained and structured cultural connect between the people of regions was mooted by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi during the Rashtriya Ekta Divas held on 31st October 2015 to commemorate the birth anniversary of Shri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Our Honorable Prime Minister at that point propounded that cultural diversity is a joy that ought to be celebrated through mutual interaction and reciprocity between the different states and UTs so that a common spirit of understanding resonates throughout the country. Thus, the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat program aims to actively enhance interaction between the people of diverse cultures living in different states in UTs in India with an objective of promoting greater mutual understanding amongst them. As per the program, each year, every state UT would be paired with another state UT in India for reciprocal interaction between the people. And it is envisaged through this exchange that the knowledge of language, culture, traditions, and practices of different states will lead to an enhanced understanding and bonding between one another, thereby strengthening the unity and integrity of India. As part of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat activities, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, and its field officers like the India Tourism Mumbai have been continuously organizing various promotional activities across India. And as mentioned, one of the objectives of the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat is to showcase the rich heritage and culture. Today, we are engaging with the state of Odisha and Maharashtra, which are paired as per the EBSP matrix. And today's webinar focuses on showcasing the rich heritage of textiles, especially from the handlooms of state of Odisha and the weaves of Maharashtra, thus enabling people to understand and appreciate the diversity that India offers. And bringing tourism to this, tourism is all about experiencing new culture, heritage, cuisine, and immersing oneself in the varied experiences that a destination offers. In fact, shopping is an important element of travel experience. Thus, a tourist also contribute to the local economies as they shop textiles, handicrafts, and other local products. And we have two eminent regional level tourist guides, Mr. Tapan Kumar Mishra from the Eastern region and Ms. Chitra Acharya from Western region, who will spin their yarn and weave the beautiful tapestries of their knowledge and experience in the world of traditional textiles. Before I call on our presenters, I now request Shri Manish Desai, sir, to give his introductory remarks. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, and very good evening to everybody. And my special thanks to my colleague and my friend, because he's my colleague, because we all work for the Government of India, Venkatesan. When we mooted this idea of jointly hosting this webinar, he immediately said that, sir, we will do it this way, we will do it this way. The kind of interest and enthusiasm he showed, that actually made the things much, much easier for the Press Information Bureau to join hands with India Tourism to host, and here we are today. As you all know, that while Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat has been one of the flagship schemes of Government of India, Digital India is also an important scheme of Government of India and look at the advantages. Today, through a webinar, through a digital platform, through Facebook Live, and through this platform, we have connected people across Maharashtra and Odisha at this webinar, and of course, from other places also. Coming back to the my introductory remarks, I must begin with oft-repeated statement that what India stands for and the concept of unity in diversity. You all know that India is a vast country known for its diversity with variety of landscape, people, language, culture, and climate. We have all possible kinds of climatic conditions in our country. Be it and all kinds of landscape, be it the desert, from deserts to the coastal plains, to the plateaus, to the high Himalayan mountains. We have all kinds of landscape. We have all kinds of people of different ethnic backgrounds and even different races. Yet, we Indians take pride in the concept of unity in diversity. The term unity in diversity refers to the state of togetherness or oneness in spite of presence of immense diversity, and that is India. Our country is a grand synthesis of people, cultures, religions, and language of different castes and communities. National unity and integrity have been maintained even though sharp economic and social inequalities persist across the country. When we talk about unity of India, one name comes to the forefront from amongst the large number of national leaders. That name is, of course, no prizes for guessing. It is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. It was on his 140th anniversary in 2015, as Mr. Venkatesan just mentioned, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the unique initiative of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat. On that occasion, the Prime Minister had said, इस योजना को लागू करने का उद्देश्य पूरे देश के लोगों को एक दूसरे से जोड़ना है. What a good concept. Through this innovative measure, the knowledge of the traditions, cultures, and practices of different states and territories are shared, leading to better understanding of India by the Indians themselves. To promote such understanding, how it is done, I'll just mention that the states are paired with each other to promote cultural exchanges. For example, Tamil Nadu has been paired with Jammu and Kashmir, Andhra Pradesh with Punjab, Kerala with Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan with Odisha, Gujarat with Chhattisgarh, etc. The paired state for the west coast state of Maharashtra, as you all know now, is the east coast state of Odisha. On the face of it, sea, that is the Arabian Sea in case of Maharashtra, and the Bay of Bengal in case of Odisha, may appear to be the common factor between these two states. But there are several similarities that meet the eye also. I would like to recall the festivals. Because festivals continue to be top draw here. While the Rath Yatra of Jagannath Puri draws millions of devotees, the Ganpati festival of Maharashtra is also famous all over the world. And there are things complementary too. While Odisha itself, in its exquisite temple architecture, Maharashtra is well known for its rock-solid forts. Maybe Venkatesan, this can be a topic for yet another webinar in future. Textile is another common thread that binds the two states together. And I really like the way you introduce our speakers, that they'll be spinning their yarns of knowledge. I'm just excited to be watching for that. Just a couple of days ago, on 7th August, we celebrated the National Handloom Day. 7th August has been chosen specifically to commemorate the Swadeshi movement that was launched on the same 7th August of 1905 in protest against the partition of Bengal. Handloom is a symbol of country's glorious cultural heritage, besides being an important source of livelihood for millions of people. Accordingly, the Government of India has given a high priority for the development of the handloom sector. Be it the Integrated Handloom Development Scheme, the Special Handloom Development Scheme for the Northeastern region, because that region excels in handlooms, you all know that, Marketing and Export Promotion Scheme, Handloom Weavers Welfare Scheme. These are some of the important programs being run for the holistic and overall development of the handloom sector in India. Both Maharashtra and Odisha have well-established handloom textiles tradition. Paithani, Himru, Kunvi, Sambalpuri, Berhampuri are just few of the traditions to name. In this webinar organized jointly by India Tourism and the Press Information Bureau of Maharashtra, we have two experts, Ms. Chitra Acharya from the Western region and Mr. Tapan Kumar Mishra from the Eastern region to give us the details. When the experts are there, I think it's a good idea for me to stop here and sit back and listen to what they have to say. Thank you very much, Venkatesh.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. In fact, it was a big honor for us to have you here and you sharing your introductory remarks. With this, let us now hear Mr. Tapan Kumar Mishra. Mr. Tapan Kumar Mishra is a regional level tourist guide licensed by Ministry of Tourism. He joined in 1996 and he has 23 years of vast experience in tour guiding with remarkable achievements covering the whole country, while he has done a road journey across India twice. Mr. Mishra has got a National Tourism Award, Best Tourist Guide category in the year 2019. Also, he has been awarded with 3 consecutive awards by the government of Odisha for travel photography. And one of his photographs was exhibited by Ministry of Tribal Affairs at New Delhi in the year 2008. And today's presentation, he will cover the textile circuits of Odisha, normally that the tour operators promote. And he will throw light on 9 important handloom clusters and 9 important varieties of handloom sarees. Over to you, Mr. Tapan. Mr. Tapan, you are muted. Unmute, please.
Thank you, sir, once again for your kind introduction. It's my pleasure to introduce to speak on the handloom of Odisha. As you know, coming to the point, once the state was known as Utkal. Utkrus Kala Desh Utkal. It was one of many names of Odisha. So Utkrus Kala, we have seen the super craftsmanship in temples as well as in handloom also. So the glossy sarees of Sambalpuri, it's not only Sambalpuri. When we speak of saree, it's a dream of all Indian women to have sarees from Pochampalli, Kanjivaram, or even Sambalpuri. So besides Sambalpuri, we have a lot of other sarees also. So I will focus on tourism. My team is the tourism, textile tourism in Odisha. Normally I will cover the places tour operators or tour guides cover, taking the tourist to the circuits. So I will speak on 9 important sarees, 9 important clusters exactly. So without taking too much time, let me go to my slides. So that I can show you the sarees of Odisha or the handloom of Odisha as a whole. So, sir, once again, it is the topic of today's topic is textile tourism in Odisha. So, in front of us, there is the map of handloom map of Odisha. It's a beautiful, you say the whole map is covered with sarees, beautiful textiles of Odisha throughout, starting from northern part of Odisha, from Mayurbhanj. Here is the cursor where on your screen I can show you. Starting from Tassa fabric of Mayurbhanj, extreme north of Odisha, up to Siminoi in Dhenkanal, Katki, Nuapatna, and then same Katki, Gita Govind. After we cross Khordha, we have Lungi and Gamcha. Then Dhalapathar is there. So my point is I'll take you from chronological order, in a chronological order from the eastern part of the state, I mean from the coastal part of the state to the southern part and exactly to the western part there at the end of the discussion, at the end of the topic. So this is as a whole the handloom map of India. You see, as everybody knows, it's not like it's famous from the Muga silk from Assam till Sambalpuri in eastern, Pochampalli in south, Kanjivaram also, Mysore silk in Karnataka, and Punjab weave here up to Nuapatna, Maniaman and Katki. I repeat again, it's very close to Bhubaneswar and we can have excursion to there. And this is the Khandua Pato of Lord Jagannath, we say. That village also having privilege to have a very auspicious pato, auspicious cloth called Khandua. Khandua means the lower part of the body. You can use on the lower part. During the auspicious Rath Yatra, the car festival of Puri temple, when the trio gods, the three deities goes on chariot, the three deities have this Khandua with the text from our religious script called Gita Govinda, very famous religious script. So it's a very, you can see the super craftsmanship of these people, the weavers of Nuapatna and Sadai Barani, how they imprint, how they age, how they weave the letters, the holy and the sacred sentences, sacred script of Gita Govinda on a sari, which is used for the lords, for the three gods, Lord Jagannath, Balabhadra and Subhadra during the car festival of Puri. This is the script, the holy script of Gita Govinda on the famous Khandua here in front of us once again. So this is the village, the only village that has got the privilege of making the dress, betting the cotton for the fabric of the Lord, the Khandua of the Lord. So they are so excited, really. I have heard the weavers here, they are so excited that we weave for the God, not only for the men, for the God. So this is the Khandua part of Lord Jagannath made in Nuapatna, Maniamband. And this is the village very close to Sadai Barani. We can have an excursion to the bell metal craft village, Sadai Barani. So while having an excursion to this village of Nuapatna, we can have an excursion to the bell metal craft of Sadai Barani, very close to Dhenkanal. This photo is again from that village of Nuapatna. This is called the final touch in my photography. I have written it final touch because after weaving that complete sari, they roll it on a very huge wooden roller and keep it in the sunlight so that it would be very straight away and it gets some sunlight also before getting tagged for the market. This is one of my best friend. Actually, I had requested her to have most important saris for this presentation, and thanks for Mrs. Lina Panigres. She has wear almost all the traditional saris of Odisha, and this one is the first one from Nuapatna Khandua saris. So instead of saying you, along with showing you on the loom, I have one of my friend wearing it for you also. So this is woman wearing Khandua sari from Nuapatna and Sadai Barani. And this is here again from that village. This is called the same for the final touch. And this is the Siminoi sari of Dhenkanal, very close to that village. Hardly you can drive 30 to 40 kilometers maximum. You can have the access to another village called Siminoi, and that is a different kind of sari, mostly in cotton fabric, cotton saris. Siminoi sari of Dhenkanal district, just north of Cuttack. District Cuttack, we have another district of Dhenkanal. So this is once again of my same friend having Siminoi Bomkai sari for all of you. So this is the sari Siminoi from Dhenkanal, and she is wearing the same sari once again. So after Nuapatna, this is the second one, Nuapatna or Maniamband or Katiki sari, what you say in my first presentation. This is the second one called Siminoi Bomkai sari. The name Bomkai is a very famous name. Normally the Bomkai saris got started in the southern part of southern coast of Odisha, which is very famous for the South Indian Brahmins also. To wear Bomkai, it's their dream. So this is the Bomkai sari. Nowadays when we speak of Bomkai, famous Sonpur Bomkai will be very famous, which is in the western part of the state. Anyway, this is a little bit northeast of Cuttack called Dhenkanal district, having Siminoi Bomkai, Siminoi saris. This is once again the map for you. I would like to tell you here, we started our journey from Khordha district, from Bhubaneswar, the state capital of Odisha, and we went here Cuttack first, to Maniamband and Nuapatna. The second was Dhenkanal here, a little northern part of Cuttack. We have the Siminoi saris, and the next one is Khordha, just coming back to the hometown again from to Bhubaneswar, little 20 to 30 kilometers from Bhubaneswar. The village will be exactly around 40 to 45 kilometers, called Olaching. We have also some soft towels, which is used as bathing towel. In Odia, it is called gamcha. Like we have gamcha also in Assam. When you arrive in Guwahati itself, in the entry point, you will find the traditional welcome also by gamcha. So very typical, similarities of Bengal Odisha, West Bengal, and Assam too. So we say also gamcha, which we use during our just to wipe out our wet body after our bathing. And it is also a friend of the low caste people. I mean, when you see the labor class people or daily wage laborers, they have a gamcha on their shoulder just to wipe out their wet in this scorching heat. So gamcha is a common man's friend, my point is. And this is called lungi, a traditional male wear. And it is said, though it's not an official wear, it's a night wear, we say, for the Odishan male. Lungi nowadays, it's going away from the market because of our night dresses. I mean, other modern fabrics are there. Still, and some people in the rural Odisha are still now using, not only some in rural Odisha, they are using a lot. So this is once again coming down south from Khordha to Ganjam, approximately 200 kilometers from the state capital of Bhubaneswar. So in order to have a visit to this place, you can have an excursion either from Bhubaneswar, or it is better to have a night halt in the sea coast of Gopalpur. That's a very beautiful, lonely place, lonely beach of Odisha. We say Puri is crowded beach and Gopalpur is the lonely beach. We have a very beautiful hotel there, Mayfair, and also some economic budget hotels are there, I mean. So for everybody there is a place. So you can have your night halt in the sea coast and on the beach at Gopalpur, and you can have a visit to Pitala. That is famous, that village in Ganjam district is famous for cotton sarees and beautiful fabrics, beautiful images, motifs you see from flowers and all. Like I have told you, we always follow the nature. While because these are all traditional sarees, these are the handlooms, traditional handlooms of Odisha. That's why you never find the modern paintings or block paintings, nothing. It is clearly hand woven by tie and dye and ikat system. And always for the motifs, we follow the nature, like birds, images of birds, animals, tortoise, clown cell, and shank, samudra, kachua. So we always follow the nature. So this is again Pital sari. She's wearing the same sari here, and she's wearing the Pital sari, Pital cotton sari from Ganjam. So we are now proceeding from Bhubaneswar towards southern part of the state. So Ganjam, approximately 200 kilometers from Bhubaneswar. You can have a night out there on the sea coast of Gopalpur. Then Berhampur Pata itself, we say Berhampur or Brahmapur. Brahmapur is the gateway of silk gateway of Odisha, we say, very famous for silk sarees. So whenever we have our traditional marriage, we have a dupatta on the bride, on the head of the bride. That is a jari work. The border is from jari, and that is on the head of the bride. And normally the dupattas are from Berhampur. So whenever we speak about our marriage, traditional marriage, Odisha marriage, the bride has a sari, or at least a dupatta, definitely from Berhampur, because it is with the jari work. So it is more and more glowing, really eye-catching. So it seems to be the marriage, the bride looks like a queen, really. Here is Berhampuri Pata, my friend, once again for you. She's wearing a Berhampuri Pata. You see the anchal is so big one, little bit bigger, more wide anchal. Anchal, is the extreme end part of the sari. Normally sari is 5.5 meters and anchal is the last part of our sari. And all the motifs and all the natural, whatever we choose, the pallu or the kumbha or the fish, whatever we follow, what kind of motifs we would like to imprint it, and we weave it at the end of the sari. I once again repeat, we weave all the motifs on our sari. We never have a block paintings like in some of the states they do block painting. So our in this case, I will say our weavers are very special. Nowhere they have block painting. They go on weaving whatever may be the motifs or maybe the text from religious scripts. This is again Berhampur part of one of a model here, Berhampur or Brahmapur part of Odisha. And here down south from Berhampur, approximately 250 kilometers, we reach at Rayagoda, which is very famous for Donguria Kond tribes of Niyamgiri Hills. We know very courageous tribes who fought a lot with a very big company, I would, to drive them away, that we want to leave our mountain for the sake of a bauxite. We don't want industrialization. My small introduction: once upon a time, these tribals were known as the criminal tribe of India because they used to kill the babies, to sacrifice human beings in their turmeric field so that the turmeric looks very reddish. So my motive is not to make you more afraid here. My point is, such a furious tribe has a very soft head and very artistic hand too. You see this stall on their shoulder. The 4 young girls in front of us now having beautiful stall, and these stalls are woven by them. They weave these stalls called the Dongriya stall, so beautiful and so natural color, vegetable dye. So you see soft hand of these types. They are very soft in their heart, as well as in their mind, as well as in their hand too. So this is the Dongriya tribal women with a traditional stall. We find it normally, even if it is prohibited to enter into their village in the Niyamgiri hill range, 40 kilometers approximately from Rayagada, from the district headquarters. We have opportunity to visit these tribes in their weekly market called Chatikona Market near Bisham Cuttack on every Wednesday. And we have a lot of foreign tourists, particularly German, French, and almost from European countries every Wednesday there. So I'm talking about these stalls on their shoulders here. So beautifully wrapped the bodies, you see. So Dongriya stalls. Again, the same tribe. Here it is again, Dongriya sari from the same tribe from the Rayagada district. So beautiful waved, you see. So simple. So Kumbh saris here. The Kumbh design is there here from the same tribe again. Jumping to the text again. Again, my friend is there with the, sorry. Dongriya Kond sari. She's having Dongriya Kond sari. So with the stall also, we have also Dongriya sari. Thank you, sir. So next is Kotpad. So down from Rayagada to Kotpad. From Rayagada to headquarters it is in the Koraput district, but we should have our night halt at Jaipur, approximately 130 kilometers from district headquarters of Rayagada. We have a night halt at Jaipur, which have beautiful hotels there. So along with visiting most of the tribes in the southern part of Orissa, starting from Rayagada itself, before Rayagada also we have some Saura tribes in Gajapati district and Parlakhandi district. Anyway, so down to Koraput, we have a place called Kotpad on our way to Chhattisgarh. So we can have this Kotpad saris, Kotpad fabrics. It's weaved by a tribe, particular tribe there, very particularly vegetable dye, very typical sari really. The color comes from the nature actually. It's called Arjun tree, kind of like very similar to teak, though not exactly teak. They use the cover of that tree is very used along with the cow dung, and they boil the cow dung along with the cover of that tree, Arjun tree, cover one. So it becomes very maroon. The color looks very maroon. I have watched it in front of me. It looks very maroon, and the color of maroon is in front of you here on the pallu, in the border, you see. So this Kotpad saree, having very few colors, not so glowing. Normally it's in cotton. You will find black with maroon or white with maroon. So only few color of sarees you will find. They too have also stalls. So this is me here. Normally whenever I welcome my tourists at the airport, those who come to Orissa, I always prefer to welcome them with the traditional handlooms or the traditional Kotpad. So this is exactly here. I do welcome my British clients with Kotpad stall. Very beautiful stall, you see, so beautifully color. You will see from this color, you can imagine the color will never go away, because I have seen it even. It is so natural with the cow dung and that cover of that Arjun tree. The color never goes away. So this is again Kotpad, and the gentle lady with Kotpad fabrics, even if it is not on sari, it's a stall on her shoulder, and down there is like a lower part of the lady. So even if not a stall, it's a dress material, I think. So they have also dress materials. My point is stalls as well as saris. Here is Habas Puri Sari from Kalahandi, down again south Kalahandi. Even if we don't have a lot of things to see there, Kalahandi is not a very touristic place, but we can have a short excursion to have this Habas Puri Sari. Habas Puri is a name. Habas Puri Sari is from the village Habaspur. So it is approximately, it is a very old one, having the Kotpat fabric. I was talking about Nuapatna, Kotpat, Barampuri silk, all having GI tagging, and Havaspuri too also having a GI tagging, geographical indication. So this is the Havaspuri sari from Kalahandi district again. And next one is the famous one I was talking about, the Bomkai or Sonpuri sari. We see Sonpur in the western part of Orissa. So whenever you go to Bargarh, Balangir, Sonpur, and Sambalpur, all these 4 districts of western Orissa, really everybody gets delighted to be there. Very get excited whenever you go there. You find Sonpuri, famous Sambalpuri sari in all these 4 corners. 4 direction, 4 districts. Once again I repeat for those who newly joined right now, maybe Balangir, Baudh, Sonpur, Bargarh and Sambalpur. So we have a beautiful Sambalpuri saris, or saris of Sambalpur in this zone. And Bomkai from Sonpur is famous. It is in silk and really very glowing one. It is a dream of every Indian woman, bit costly, but it is a dream of every Indian woman to have a Sambalpuri sari, and Bomkai too. So once again it is here, Bomkai silk sari. You see the pallu is so glowing. It's hardly 300 grams, hardly I'm talking about, so light in color. And sometimes it goes inside a ring even, so silky, so smooth. And we are here once again at the famous one Sambalpuri. This is one variety of Sambalpuri sari, because Sambalpuri sari also have many varieties. This is called Pasapalli. Pasapalli might be, is Pasa is that chessboard. So you see the fabric, the motif printed here, the print is there for a chessboard. That is the board used for gambling or for chess. So that's why the name of the sari is called Pasapalli sari. Sometimes the chessboard is in more elaborate way. Sometimes it is in a very smaller chessboard patterns. The small pasa, the houses are more smaller. Here it is little smaller. Here it is, in my previous image, it was a little bigger. So Pasapalli from Bargarh, again from the western part of the state, and Sambalpuri Pasapalli sari. Pasapalli is the figure once again, the chessboard weaved on the sari here. Next one is again from Sonpur Patto. Patto is the most costly, as you know. When during the marriage ceremony, the bride has the patto, and it is a prize position. We say it's a pride position to have a part of in each everyone's cupboard. I'm talking about the ladies. They would have a pattas, even if it is a little costly. During the auspicious occasions, holy occasions, even going to a temple, particularly during a marriage ceremony, everybody will find normally I'm having a patto. So this is a patto having the sundial of Konark. You see 8 spokes are clearly visible, like we have the sundial at Sun Temple of Konark. 8 spokes, because we divide the whole day into 8 praharas. We say one day is divided into, it's a local division of time, into Ashta Prahara. Each prahara represents 3 hours. So 8 into 3 is 24 hours. That's why on the sundial you see here, there are 8 spokes. So, and we have the birds and the dancing women are here. Next one is also the dancers here. Whenever we speak of our dance, the famous dance of Odissi from this land, we have beautiful pattas, beautiful pattas from Sonpuri, and the dancers are, the figures of the dancers are here, is you can see it has been weaved out here. So the dancers and the wheels and the temple design. Sometimes we have a small design, we say kumbh design, but here it is more elaborate. You can imagine the artistic, how matured is the artist here. He has the complete temple weaved on the sari, on the anchal of the sari here. Here it is Sonpuri Sonpuri silk, sorry, is better. If somebody wears it, you can find how the anchal is beautifully looked, because if you fold it like my previous one, you cannot see. When a gentle lady wears it, you see the anchal remains in the extreme end of the sari, and that is the anchal here. So beautiful look here. And this is the extreme craftsmanship, I can say. This is the left one. I particularly, you can see the national flag is weaved on the sari, and this is a national award winner's gift. I mean, this artist who has done this art has been awarded with a national award, has been recognized at the national level. So the trio color, I mean, our flag is on the sari here. A very precious possession, I can say it. So again, Sambalpuri dress material we have. I am talking about always saris, but not only we have the saris, we have also the dress materials, bed covers, the curtains, I mean the door screens, window screens, pillow covers also. So besides the saris, we have a lot of things also for the household. This is the bed cover here, one of the figure for you. So beautifully done. You see Sambalpuri bed cover. And once again, I repeat, the color is, even if it is goes and wear out, the color is there for a long time, really. This is Sambalpuri Shwari. Once again, to just refresh your memories. Animal, you see the motifs of the animals here, deers, and the plants here. Sundial is also there. Dancing women, lot of craftsmanship, and we say we have so many. It has gone now to international level. We have an international market now, and we have Boinika, the state government undertaking, and Utkalika also, and also Amlan is there. I mean, the government cooperative societies I'm talking about, those who are handling it from marketing point of view, they are doing their lot. They are doing their best actually to spread these saris, to market these saris in European market and all over the globe too. So now we have gone global. And this figure, if I talk of course, Mrs. Balan, I mean, Vidya Balan is there. My point is not to show her exactly. She was in news few days before because of the algebraic pattern of Sambalpuri sari. She was going to have, she was going for the presentation. I mean, it was just a trailer for her upcoming film of Sakuntala Devi, and she was having this sari of algebraic geometrical pattern, you can say. So she was in news, and she had appreciated the weavers in such nice words. I mean, I can't explain it here too. So this sari with algebraic pattern, this is a very modern concept, of course. I mean, our weavers are going modern. That is the thing. So Bida Balan with the algebraic pattern of Sambalpuri sari. And next one is Bichitrapuri. It is like the Pasapalli sari also. This is another variety of Sambalpuri sari called Bichitrapuri Sambalpuri sari. This is one of the variety of Sambalpuri sari. Sambalpuri sari also having lot of varieties. This is a Bomkai motif. Yeah, I have a little bit forgotten to tell you. We are now in the western part of Odisha after visiting from Bhubaneswar to Berhampur to Rayagada and Koraput Kotpad. You are in Sonpur, Baudh, Bargarh and Sambalpur. You can have your night halt at either at Balangir or Bargarh or even at Sambalpur or in Baudh too. So you can change your place in from southern part, from Rayagada, Koraput to either in any point of these 4 districts in Baudh, Bargarh, Sambalpur or Fulwani. So this is a Bomkai motif. Like I was telling you, we follow the nature, images of gods and goddesses in the motif. This is second motif of a Bomkai motif on the Bomkai sari. The third one is the Clonsel. Even if we are here at the western part of the state, far away from the seashore, sea is at Puri only, so approximately we are 450 kilometers from the seashore. Even if they are far, they never forget to have the motifs of sea animals, Clonsel, Kachua, I mean the tortoise also, to represent our culture. So this is again a foreign tourist in a traditional weaving village of Odisha taking the photographs of the saris on the roll. final touch, I mean, on the sunlight before going to be packed and to be sent to the market. Again, it's me to receive the guests here with the traditional stalls of Kotpad again. So that's my little contribution to help the promoters, of the, I mean, the waivers, just not to buy the flowers or garlands. I always use the handlooms to welcome my visitors. This is the famous dance of Odissi with the silk fabric. You see, when the male dancer is there, normally the upper part is open. I mean, there is no fabric on the upper part. The lower part, we have a beautiful silk dhoti, we say, silk dhoti. And you see the middle, like the anchal is on the remaining part, I mean, in the end part of the sari. Here is the anchal, sometimes in the middle. Otherwise, we can use a separate part to have a decorative here. And it is weird in a very artistic way, so that the flexibility of the legs will be very beautiful, because the legs speak a lot during this dance. Leg, eyes and hands, I mean the motifs, the mudras, you know. So this is the gentle lady dancing our Odissi dance also. So beautiful Sambalpuri sari you see. Normally the blouse is also from the sari. At the end of the sari we have additional part to have the blouse matching part, so that your sari matches with your blouse. So this is all about my presentation about the handloom of Orissa, particularly the places, the tourism circuits, the tourist circuits to where we take our tourists, starting from the coastal part of east coast of Odisha to down south of Barampur, Rayagada, Koraput, Kalahandi, and again to the west, Sambalpur, Bargarh, Baud. Besides that, we have also in Dholapathar near Bhubaneswar, Banki, Dholapathar, Chakka Gopalpur near Jaspur. When we go to the Buddhist circuit of Diamond Triangle of Ratnagiri, Lalagiri, Udayagiri also, we have a very beautiful tussar silk sari point called Chakka Gopalpur. So I hope everybody enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tapan. That was a nice journey across Odisha, various regions, and I will request you to send me an itinerary of the textile tour of Odisha. Maybe we can promote it through our channels here, so that when people start traveling, they can have a glimpse of experience of visiting these places where we have the famous weaves. With this, now I invite Ms. Chitra Vidyadhar Acharya to present the weaves of Maharashtra. Ms. Chitra Acharya is based in Mumbai and is working as a licensed regional level tourist guide since 2004. She is quite fluent in Spanish and also loves to explore the local culture and show India to international visitors through her own eyes. She holds a passion to build strong bonding between the Indian heritage and culture to the visitors from all over the world. Her favorite segments of work are guiding culinary tours, visits to bazaars, visits to temples and rock cut architecture, and also the Indian textile tourism. For her, tourism is like breath. And with this, over to you, Ms. Chitra, to take us to the weaves of Maharashtra.
Thank you, sir. Okay, shall I start?
Yeah, you can start. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Tapan. It took a little longer from, the weaves to come from Odisha to Maharashtra. I don't know how long or how much time I have, but I would like to introduce a few weaves of Maharashtra to all of you. And before I start explaining you about the different weaves of Maharashtra, I would quickly name these weaves to you so that you can remember them, because with a limited time, I must tell you the special weaves we have it in this state. You can see we start with the Himru, then we have Solapuri Chadar, then we have Ghongdi, then we have the Satranji or the Daris, specially made in Maharashtra, hand block print of Vidarbha, then Narayanpet saris, that is then Ganga Jamuna saris we have, then Ganeshpur Kosa silk saris, then Nagpuri saris we have, along with the Karvati Kat saris, which are very, very popular saris in Maharashtra state we have. After that, we do have Muga and Ghicha saris. Often it is said Muga saris come from Bihar, but we do have some connection in Maharashtra too. Then we come to a very popular, these days a very, very trendy kind of a saris we have. That's called Khan saris. And then I would definitely end today's session with the Mahavastra of Maharashtra, and that is called Paichani. So starting with the Himru, it's one of the best weave of Maharashtra. I would like to share the little story about it to you. And the story is Himru. If you see the word, it speaks volume about its weave. Himru is hum-ru, similar. Similar to what? Similar to the technique of Kinkhab. Now, what is Kinkhab? Kinkhab means a golden dream. It has a lot of similarities. It also traces a lot of Persian origin. But it is said that Himru came to Maharashtra, or rather to Aurangabad, with Tughlaq. When he shifted his base from Delhi to Aurangabad, when he made Aurangabad as his capital from Delhi, many weavers came along with him. And they stayed back with the rule of Malik Ambar, having forgetting the patronage from the king. And that is how basically Himru became more a Maharashtrian view. Now, Kinkhab technique we all know, it is a silk as well as the zari work. Now, in olden days, the zari was used was a pure silver. So naturally, it was meant for the royal families lived here. It wasn't really available for the commoners. Intricate floral design. Then it also traces to the 15th century when we talk about the time period. I would want to tell you one thing about the weave here, that it is woven in such a way that it is hard to get caught with a nail or even with your nail. So it's a very firm weaving, the Himru shawls we have. Mainly popular in the form of shawls. And I would like to mention one thing here, that some of the fabric, some of the weaves of Maharashtra are GI protected status. What is GI protected? That they are geographically the indications of the area. That means they are purely based in that particular region. So Himru definitely is a part of indigenous parts of Maharashtra, which comes originally from Aurangabad. It stayed back here forever, and it became the one of the most important weaves of Maharashtra, especially known for geometrical pattern, floral design, intricate creeper design. They were very, very popular on designing Himru. Himru is not, Himru can be very lightweight, but when you look at it, the designs are not very light. The whole fabric is weaved with lots and lots of patterns. So when you look at the shawl, you don't see the piece of, now of course it's very popular to keep some part empty, on, just to have the borders with the embroidery. But traditional Himru is completely woven, and that is taken to cover the shoulders when you wear a sari. So Himru is definitely one of the very, very popular weaves we have in Maharashtra. After Himru, when we proceed further, I would like to introduce a very, very popular weave of Maharashtra, which comes from Solapur region. Solapur chadar, when you see, look at the photograph, you will come to know how beautiful the floral design it is, and it is intricately carved. Now, why the Solapuri chadars are famous? What is the speciality of it? Solapuri chadars are mainly done on a jacquard machine. So you can see the weave, automatically the brocade comes in your mind, but there is no brocade here. These are all cotton, pure cotton weave, and the durability makes it more popular. It really got popular during the Peshwa rule, but in my opinion, when I studied this weave, I saw that in 1860, when the railway got expanded and it just went beyond the Solapur region, it got more and more chadar industry. It's like it really had more canvas got open to this chadar industry. Also, by 1903, there were about 7,850 looms in Solapur. Till today, it never happened if you talk about Solapur and you don't talk about its chadar. It's quite long, the lengthwise is quite What is chadar now? Let me tell you first. Chadar is basically a pullover. It's a typical pullover. Many Maharashtrians use it because it's completely done in cotton. Solapur is very warm region. It's a dry heat there. So you want to cover from getting affected from the insect, but at the same time, you don't want to feel hot because of the weather outside. So the cotton, which is used for weaving Solapuri chadar, keeps it very cool. It's a pure cotton, so naturally it's cool, and the weaving makes it more colorful. Now, Solapuri chadar I personally love because of the indigenous colors. Very, very Indian colors are used for weaving Solapuri chadar. You can see it in red color, you can see in blue color, you can see in brown, green. All these beautiful colors make it more interesting. Our third weave here is Ghongri, which is again a very interesting weave of Maharashtra. Ghongri is basically originated in a district of Maharashtra, which is called Nandurbar. On 9th August, we celebrated the International Day of the Native People. And Ghongri is actually made by the nomad. Ghongri is also a typical attire of the shepherd. And it is used for actually sleeping purpose. It is used for covering yourself, your head, to fight with the weather conditions. Now, when I talk about the Ghongri, I must tell you, it's completely an organic virgin wool, which is now very rare to find. And when we talk about the Indian handloom, how important it is. I always say, when we discuss about the handloom, why is handloom special? Because the quality handloom has, which is basically renewable and also sustainable. So this kind of a fabric is definitely a pride of Maharashtra, I would rather say. It is nothing. What is Ghongri? It's nothing but a natural thermal blanket. We go to the mall and we buy very expensive, quilts, and sometimes they don't even last for a year or two because the quality is not really that good. But when you look at Ghongri, it is actually made by these local shepherds, as I said to you, and mainly came into existence in 16th century. And as I said to you, when the loom is used for weaving Ghongri, is actually a pit loom. So geometrical patterns are very popular. With Ghongri, before we proceed further, I want to stress upon one very important aspect. I may say this, or if you allow me to, that Ghongri has a lot of medical healing properties if used as a blanket or pullover. You may ask me what a blanket how can it be medical or medicinal? So it is said that it stops clotting the blood. It's like it definitely prevents the blood clotting. It also prevents the skin allergies, and the most important is it helps you to control your back pain. Nowadays we all suffer from back pain. We complain. So if it is just the beginning of the back pain, if you get one inexpensive Ghongri and start clipping on it, your back pain is gone. Now, why it is so? Why was it? Because it's a natural fabric. It is natural and handmade. Ghongri's medicinal properties are fantastic, and I think we must try this because when we talk about the handloom, most of the time we don't know this kind of hidden usages of the handloom, which with this kind of a program we get to know. Even I learned a lot while studying this. So I would suggest you to go and feel the fabric. Before we proceed, I have one interesting usage of Ghongri I will tell you. See, we all grew up here. See, we say that silk comes from the caterpillar and the moth and this and that. But when the caterpillar goes on your skin, sometimes it leaves a very irritating hair. And in olden days, we used to rub the Ghongri on this basic on your skin, so that hair from the caterpillar which is stuck on your skin can easily get removed, and you get rash-free skin. So these are the usages of Ghongri, basically made by the nomads. We must thank them from the bottom of our heart because it's a very, very intricate view of Maharashtra. Originated from Nandurbar district. I particularly repeat the state because if you see, Nandurbar is on the border of Maharashtra and Gujarat. After you cross Nandurbar, in few kilometers you enter Gujarat, where you enter the tribal region and where you often see the Dhangar, that is the shepherd community, using the Ghongri. Then we come to our next weave, another favorite of mine, which is called Satrangi. Now, what is Satrangi? Satrangi is a dari in a very sophisticated way if I want to address rug or carpet. Look at the colors of it, how beautiful it is. See the stripes. And I will definitely talk about the Satrangi, which is originally from Vidarbha region and the Manyar families, probably from down south, years ago came and settled in Vidarbha region, and then they initiated this weave. So Satrangi, that is Shatranj, that is the chessboard, was basically the idea behind weaving the Satrangi. Satranj, Satrangi, Satrangi, that is how it has been addressed. Now, why Satrangi? If you look at it, if you look at the photograph, you will come to know that all possible colors of the rainbows are used during the weave, and it makes it more colorful because of it. There are many usages of Satrangi. I want to share one information here with you that there is a technique when you have Satrangis, this weave, there is a technique called warp and weft. Warp and weft is a very interesting technique. If you look at my finger, you'll come to know. It's a technique like this. The weave, the fabric, the thread is locked like this, and because of that, the fabric or the piece of fabric or the Satrangi never ever get damaged. So what happens? See, usually Satrangis are used for ceremonial purposes, like traditional Indian system. We used to have whenever we used to go for functions or some ceremonies or some occasions, traditionally we used to sit down to attend the functions or to participate in that. And the host would be standing around, walking around, but the guest would always be sitting comfortably on Satrangi. So naturally, the kids may spill their drinks or drop their food down, or sometimes we have some religious function where you are blowing the incense sticks or the candles, and that time, if a spark from the incense stick, if it falls on that fabric, naturally the fabric will get burned. It will, but the weave of Satrangi is so fantastic that it may create just a hole there, but it will not burn the whole fabric. And that is the speciality, that Satrangi can last for more than 100 years. I have such treasure which is there with my family for more than 200 years. And we really cherish our bonding with the Satrangis. Again, I want you to see the photo because I want you to see the colors. Satrangi, the Satrangi, Satrangi, what we call it in Maharashtra. As I said, I repeat again, don't forget this, because when you talk about the weavings of Maharashtra, what is interesting, the warp and the weft technology. The weave, the thread are interlocked. So when you interlock the thread, the fabric automatically becomes sturdy and durable. That's a very important quality of the weaves of Maharashtra. You won't see Maharashtrian weaves very delicate. We do have cotton, we do have wool, we have silk, cotton, silk, but still the weave is very sturdy because of this technique. Then we come to the hand block print of Vidarbha. When we are discussing, while I was studying, I really realized that Vidarbha region, which is considered to be a dry region of Maharashtra state, is actually very warm with its textile produce, because most of these weaves today, what we are going to discuss, are either from the center Maharashtra or from the Vidarbha region, Nagpur, Gadchiroli, Chandrapur, and the Bhandara district. This all weave comes from. Vidarbha region, basically, Bausar family or Bausar community were responsible to bring these hand block prints of Vidarbha for our, you can say, the pleasure. The material is usually hand woven silk, and it's a meal made chiffon cloth, block orienting wooden and copper blocks. Now, so far we saw that weaves were made on loom, but here we also have a block printing, which is not so common when we discuss about the Maharashtra weave. But particularly when we talk about hand block prints of Vidarbha, they are using the wooden blocks or the copper blocks. These copper blocks you can see in Calico Museum of Gujarat, Ahmedabad, and they're of course there. That's you can say the heritage of India preserved there, but that is still used. Now, it is basically the tree of life, which is very famous concept when it comes to painting, carpet, any kind of a handicraft. It is actually a common feature when we talk about the hand block prints of Vidarbha. Then comes a very popular weave of Maharashtra. So far I have spoken about the weaves. I'm going to talk about the weaves only. But now I come to a weave which is very close to the heart of women, not just of Maharashtra, but from all over India. So starting with this weave, I would like to start with the Narayanpet sarees first. There is always a debate whether Narayanpet is from Maharashtra or from Karnataka. So let me make it like this. Narayanpet is basically from South Maharashtra and North Karnataka. Why we call it Maharashtra weave? I have the answer for that and I'll tell you about it. Basically, Solapur district is the origin of Narayanpeti sari. Again, the Bausar community, which actually brought into our treasure, and floral and animal design, which is again unusual pattern introduced with this Narayanpeti saris we have. Silk, and nowadays, if you can say that it is available in cotton also. Considering the changing weather pattern, the weaves in off-late, you can say, days have changed drastically. So Narayanpet traditionally was though made in silk, now is available in cotton silk, Seco silk, you can say. Seco is silk cotton, and it's available in both the textiles. Designed with contrasting zari border and with Rudraksha motif. That is the unique pattern of Narayanpet sarees. Now I was wondering, I never saw the Rudraksha pattern, and luckily I got to open my Narayanpet saree and I saw the booties of Narayanpet sarees are basically of Rudraksha pattern, very beautifully and intricately woven into the fabric. What is another feature or characteristic of Narayanpet sarees is a checkered surface designed with embroidery, and the pallu have ethnic designs such as temple. If you see the sarees, what you see on the presentation, they have a very strong border and a very plain body. But often in traditional Narayanpet sarees, you see very intricate and very small checker design. So that makes it more beautiful. Let me tell you the history part of Narayanpet saree, because it is associated with the history of our royal king Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. It is said that in 1630, he was on excursion and he was traveling somewhere to the south of India, and then he was passing through Narayanpet. Overnight or probably for a few days, he camped there, and then the viewers he had with him, they decided to stay back. And they stayed back there, and Maharaj, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, continued his journey further. But it is said the early weavers who settled down in the Narayanpet region is actually the 1730, what we had, are pioneers of this particular art called Narayanpet saree, settled from Narayanpet. I want to quickly go through a few more designs because Paithani will take a little more time. So we have Ganga Jamuna. The Ganga Jamuna sarees are with two different color borders. Can you see that on the screen? Again, it is from the 16th century, the origin from Solapur. Floral and animal pattern. It's a silk which is basically seen in other parts of India too. The most important thing is the saree would be plain. Most certainly, it would be white. And then the borders would be contrast color. So there could be pink and green, yellow and blue, such kind of a two different contrast color border the sari will have. It's a pure silk sari. Then we have Ganeshpur Kosa. Ganeshpur Kosa is actually from the Bhandara district. Can we have the next slide, please? Ganeshpur Kosa. Yeah. Like Kosa is a Sanskrit word. Kosa is basically an indigenous silk, Kosa, and basically known for Mothe and Chote Saukade. Now, what is Mothe and Chote Saukade? Mothe means big, Chote means small, Saukade means square. The whole sari will have the square pattern design. That is the speciality of Ganeshpur Kosa silk sari. Then we come to the Nagpur saris. Again, Nagpur saris, you can see how beautiful these saris are, and these saris are very popular because of the comfort of its weave, and you wear day long and you don't feel uncomfortable at all, whether you are like a old lady or a new from the new generation. You still are extremely comfortable because this is again done in I have one interesting information about this Nagpuri saris, and it is that the wooden dobby pattern, wooden dobby or fly shuttle, the loom what we use for this kind of a sari is actually a pit loom. The uniqueness of the Nagpur sari are the designs that are woven with the Nagpuri wooden dobby, that is the small pattern. Designs are woven in stripes and the checks with the fly shuttle. You can clearly see the checks, and the fly shuttle is the loom used for making this. If you can zoom this, you will clearly see the checks, and that makes the sari fantastically beautiful. Our next weave is a Karvati Kath sari. If you look at the sari, you will remember somebody we always, we Indians will feel proud about it. And that was our ex-president, Srimati Pratibha Patil. If you recollect her face and the way she used to dress the saris, these saris basically are called Karvati Kath sari. Let me explain you what is the meaning of Karvati Kath. Karvat is a saw. Kath is actually the border. Karvat Kath means saw teeth or saw edge border. If you zoom this photo, or even clearly if you look at this, you will come to know that the border has strong edges, just like saw. And that makes this sari absolutely unique. You can associate this design with the temple border, but it's little different than temple border because the pattern, the saw edge pattern, is very intricate and sharp. That makes the sari very, very popular. This is always adjacent to the border. The saw edge is not away from the border, and that's why we call this as a Karvati Kath sari. The roots are originally, it's like origin of most of the design from the sculpture of the temple, the Ramtek temple of Nagpur. So if you happen to go to Nagpur and if you visit the Ramtek temple, you often see you can see the canopies, and they have this design, which is basically the inspiration behind the Karvati Kath sari. Our next weave is actually the Muga and Ghicha saris. See, often we said Muga is from Bihar. Of course, in Bihar is popular as well. But Muga saris, let me tell you that Muga, Chasa, Iri and Mulberry are four different silks we use when we make the silk saris. Out of which Iri and Muga are purely Indian silk saris. And this is why we cherish these saris. It is said that the caterpillar of wild moth found in rainforest of Bihar is the source of this silk used for making the Muga saris. That is why it's more popular in Bihar, but we are still making this in Maharashtra as well, and it's very popular because of its lightweight and soothing colors. The next sari we have come to, and we have Kharn saris basically. Can you show me the slide, please? The Kharn sari. The Kharn sari. Khand. The moment you say Khand sari, again another debate start that Khand is from Karnataka. How can you say that it's Maharashtrian? Yes, it is Maharashtrian sari. How? I'll share this information with you. It is from South Maharashtra and also from North Karnataka. Just earlier, as I said, it actually was very popular during the dynasty of Chalukyas and during the Sultanate of Adil Shah. 15th century fabric it is, and it is silk art silk, that is viscose, and pure cotton yarn. What is special about this? It is also done on peat loom, and it's a wrap. It is no warp beam. That is a very speciality or special character of Khand fabric. Now, when we speak about Khand, it's like geometrically done honeycomb pattern, flowers, creepers, fruits, seeds, all possible designs are there in Khand sarees. What makes Khand saree special? If you see the photograph, I do want to stress upon this point. You know, all over India, but particularly in Maharashtra and southern part of India, there is a tradition to gift the sari to a woman. But when you're gifting the sari to a woman, you don't gift the sari just like that. You always gift the sari with a piece of fabric, even though the sari may have the woven extra piece to make a blouse of it. Because it's a tradition that you cannot give a sari just like that, you have to give a blouse piece. So that blouse piece initially used to of this Khand. Now what is Khand? If you ask me a little more in detail, because this is very popular, this is very much in trend right now, so I want to give little more briefing about it. And if you see, the olden days women used to wear the cholis, that is the blouse, which will be a little longer to your it's the elbow length. And see, women used to be inside the house more often. So they never carried the purses or tote bags or the clutches. So definitely all of them have some kind of valuables with them, and they want to keep them in some secret place. So each blouse inside will have a small pocket. If you see the furniture, we say the cupboard has lot of drawers. Khand is nothing but a drawer to keep your valuables. So that was the main purpose. Basically, the particular Khand fabric was serving, because the whole blouse will be of one fabric, but that small pocket where you can keep your valuables would be of Khand fabric. Now, the lengthwise and widthwise, Khand fabric will always be the same. Diamond cut design is the unique character of the Khand fabric. Then this sari with the Khand blouse piece is actually a triangular conical shape. When you gift it to some woman, you don't give a square piece. It's usually folded just like a triangle, and that is how it came into existence. The Khand must be given to a woman when you are offering her a sari. Khand saris are available in silk, as I said, viscose, cotton. Cotton ones are a little bit expensive, but you can see some regions of Karnataka and southern part of Maharashtra, especially in Solapur region, you often see women, whether from the the farmers' wives or from the elite big families, they would be wearing the Khand sari, because the colors are very attractive and the contrast border is a big popular thing for the women of Maharashtra and of course from elsewhere. Now we come to the most popular weave of Maharashtra. It is said that Paithani is not a weave, it's a feeling. So true it is. Every woman's aspiration, every bride's dream to have at least one in her trousseau. What's Paithani? From where did it came? What made her? What made to get this sari, get this title called Paithani sari? Paithani, in its name, comes from Paithan, which was called Pratishthan during the ancient Silk Route. What we had was a trade center once upon a time. So when we talk about the trade center, naturally, we know how many activities this kind of a geographical regions would have. And what is interesting, Paithani is basically completely woven in a hand and done on pure silk. Nowadays, we get the silk from Bangalore and the zari we get it from Surat. Of course, Yevla too make the zari, which is used for making the Paithani sari. But the new hub is Surat, from where we are getting the zari to weave the Paithani sari. Now, typical characteristics of Paithani sari are oblique square design, pallu with peacock and lotus, parrot. It's like these are the motifs, are the traditional pattern. It is considered that original Paithani is always made in finest quality of pure silk. It comes from Paithan, that is from Aurangabad region. It is also made in Yevla and Nasik. These are the hubs of the good quality Paithani. I will not discuss about the price of it because it varies in different regions of Maharashtra state. But it is also said that Paithani is available in plain as well as booty design. So you can see on our presentation, there are two saris, one with a magenta color that has the booty. Even the orange has some booties, but booties are prominent on a magenta color, which is magenta color is very, very popular color when we weave the Paithani sari. Now, the kaleidoscope color design or the single color design is another characteristic of the Paithani sari. Kaleidoscope effect is achieved by using one color for weaving the length and the other color for the width. So the width-wise and length-wise, we use the kaleidoscope effect. Nowadays, silk comes from the Bangalore, which I just said to you. The pattern is completely based on the principle of tapestry. I just love the concept of tapestry, and nowadays, most of the Paithanis we get to see. They, apart from lotus, peacock, parrot, the floral design is getting very popular, especially the Asavalli. What is Asavalli? I'll tell you in a short while. Hans motif, then Raghu Maina, that is the parrot and Maina. These are the, that is actually the flowering winds, which are most popular one. Paithani got more patronage from the Peshwa rule. See, Peshwas were rich, they were patronizing the silk. So during the Peshwa rule, all the Peshwa wives, they used to basically get all the beautiful saris from Paithan. One of the Peshwa wives was also from the Paithan region, and that made the connection of the sari with the Peshwa rule quite strong. It is called Mahavastra of Maharashtra, and as I said to you earlier, it is every woman's dream and a bride's aspiration. I repeat, Paithani is never just a weave, it is a feeling. Because from your grandmother to probably your own daughter, there is always a story associated with it. It's not just a sari, but somebody must have wore in their wedding, and that is a legacy passed on. Now you're going to pass it on to your future generation. So that is all about Paithani. So it is also said that Paithani is done on a loom, which is special loom, and it is said that fly shuttle and pick loom is used for weaving the Paithani sari, the weave. The raw silk is usually cleansed with a caustic soda and dyed in a particular desired color. Zari is metallic yarn made of pure silver. Organically or originally, zari was manufactured in Yevla itself. As I just mentioned it to you, gold zari was used once upon a time. However, affordable zari is nowadays is of silver. Pallu is of munya, panja, barava, laher, asavalli, which I just said to you. Asavalli is nothing but a flower pot, a flowering plant which is coming or dropping down from the flower pot. It's called Asavalli design. Peacock, a very prominent design. In Maharashtra, we have a very nice song. I want to actually conclude the session by saying that song to you. This song is basically from the Lavani, which is a dance of seduction. And Paithani is called Mahavastra. So how can be seduction and Mahavastra be associated? It can be. Because I've just said to you, this weave is a feeling. So no matter from the elite families or from the families of the Lavani dancer, from wherever they come, each girl desire to have it. And that's why a girl say, Padravarati Zaratarita Mora Nasara Hava. That means, oh my mom, I want a dancing peacock on a brocade border of my sari. Can you please get me the wedding sari? That is Ai Mala Nesava Shalunava. So that is all about the Paithani and the different 13 weaves of Maharashtra. With a short time, I tried to cover. Sorry for the rush, but we had to do this. I hope you enjoyed the handloom of Odisha and Maharashtra, and I hope you continue buying them and patronizing them by giving them importance and not get into too much of synthetics, because we need to save our handloom, which is for the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra. That was an amazing journey and a lot of information about the textiles of Maharashtra. Thank you for doing this and taking us through. And in fact, both Tapan and Chitra, I would request you to kind of work with us and give us some itineraries so that at some point we can put these places associated with these fabrics, and when people can, whenever they travel to these places, they can experience, see how they are made. Now we come to the end of the session. I would like to invite Sri Rahul Tirke, the Deputy Director from the PIB Mumbai, to propose a vote of thanks.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. This has been such a enriching and enlightening session, and giving us a detailed account of the rich textile traditions of the Odisha and Maharashtra. Tapan Babu illustrated us a textile circuit of Odisha in very short span, where we were taken from one part of Odisha, Behrampur, having a silk saree tradition, to the Hasbai cotton, Hapspuri cotton of Kalhandi, silk Khandua of Naupatna, to the Bomai silk of Sonapur Bodh. So thank you for such a bringing out enriching glimpses of our incredible India. So that similarly, when he took us through the geographical spread of such a rich tradition, Ms. Chitra Vidyadhar Acharya took us through the historical origin and evolution of different parts of the Maharashtra, where the different traditions, starting from Himru, Solapuri Chadar, Ghongdi, where it is from the Nandurbar, whether it is a different sarees like Narayanpet sari, Ganga Jamuna sari, Ganeshpur Kosa, or Muga Ghicha sari. And as she said, it's a Mahavasra, where it is not just a view but a feeling. So taking us through the different such a enriching and diverse, what we call such a diverse culture, where we have such a rich traditions of the textile and the handloom. So thank you so much for both of the experts for bringing out, as sir mentioned earlier, where they have spun their experience and knowledge to bring us this wisdom of the both states of the Maharashtra. And I would also like to extend my thanks and gratitude to our DG sir Manish Desai, and to our director sir Sri Venkateshan sir, and the entire team for inspiring, guiding to do better than what we do always. And so much thankful to all the organizing team, and especially the technical team, which has given a quick responses to have such a smooth conduct of a session. So at the end of the session, I thank you all the participants as well for patiently listening and showing such a huge amount of interest in these interesting topic, in fact. So thank you so much everybody for being here. Thank you. So
Thank you, and with this we formally call it. And Chitra,